Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be front and center. Join me in this program here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You can watch this program on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And this program, Front and Center, can also be heard on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.010 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.820 MHz. Join us for another edition of Front and Center. I'm your host, Jerome Toledo. In this edition of Front and Center, we will be focusing on the comprehensive tariff program of the National Economic and Development Authority. The Comprehensive Tariff Program aims to ensure access and affordability to essential commodities while balancing the interests of consumers and local producers alike, which is crucial for fostering rapid, sustained, and inclusive economic growth. And in the case of rice, which is one of the most critical components of Filipino households' consumption basket, the NEDA board reduced the duty rate, aiming to lower the price of rice further and make it more affordable. And rice contributed about 2 percentage points, or over 50%, to the headline inflation based on the latest inflation reports of the Philippine Statistics Authority in the past 3 months. Also, the government said it can still collect substantial import duty for the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, or RCEF, despite the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA board's approval of the Comprehensive Tariff Program. And how's this calibrated tariff rate cut on rice will affect Filipinos on the consumer side and on the local producer side? My guest today is none other than National Economic and Development Authority Undersecretary Rose Edilion. Undersecretary, welcome to the program.
Yes, hello, Jerome. And thank you for having me and this opportunity to elaborate some more about the comprehensive tariff program.
All right, thank you. And our honors as well. Okay, first things first. First question, Undersecretary. Can you tell us about this program, Comprehensive Tariff Rate Cut, particularly on imported rice, and how will it benefit the Filipinos?
Yes, actually, that's the bottom line that we are looking at. But as you mentioned earlier, it's really a balancing act. And it should also be emphasized that this is a comprehensive tariff program, um,
Mhm.
which actually covers over 11,000 tariff lines. So it's really meant to improve, first of all, the competitiveness of our domestic industries, provide policy stability, and of course, also enhance consumer welfare by tempering inflation and making sure that consumers also have access to diverse options, and at the very least ensure a reliable supply of essential food.
Sorry. Regarding this comprehensive tariff rate cut, so since this is like an ongoing program, Undersecretary?
This comprehensive tariff program is always the review is always being done periodically, so every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the review was started last year,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was presented to the NEDA board last week. So there were
Right.
extensive consultations done
Mm-hmm.
over that period, and of course, it was also a very again a comprehensive review because we had to look at what's the situation now,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at the different trade negotiations as well,
Mm-hmm.
trade agreements that we have ratified, and looking at what is now the current need of the
Mm-hmm.
industry, and then
Mm-hmm.
also of the consumers.
I see. Okay, and this one for tariff rate cut on imported rice. So,
Mm.
just to if correct me if I'm wrong, did the proposed rate cut for this agricultural product will be pegged to 15% from the previous 35%. Is that correct, Undersecretary?
Yeah, that's right. So from the previous 35%, the proposal is to bring it down to 15%.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is really, looking at the most recent data, where rice inflation is actually responsible for at least half
Mm.
of the inflation that we are experiencing, and this is especially hurtful for the poor consumers,
Yeah.
because rice really constitutes a huge portion
Yeah.
of their consumption basket. But
Mm-hmm.
just to also provide the balance now, because the comprehensive tariff program also reduced the tariffs on agricultural machinery. It also reduced the tariff on many inputs that are needed for food manufacturing, like the pandesal, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
like many other food products.
Okay. I would
Mm.
like to also ask Undersecretary Edilion, how much reduction on rice prices are we expecting given that we are reducing the tariff rate?
Yeah, when it becomes effective, when we're thinking, we estimate that the prices will be reduced by 5 to 6 pesos per
Mm-hmm.
kilo.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's still at a high level, and that's the reason why there are still talks about how to make it even more
Mm-hmm.
affordable, especially for the poor
Mm-hmm.
consumers. So we're talking about the food stamp program of the DSWD,
Mm-hmm.
probably reviving the Kadiwa stores as well, so
Mm-hmm.
that they can sell the affordable rice.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would like to point out that the current price of rice right now is somehow between 40 or 45 to 50 pesos.
Mm.
Would that possible to cut it down even more?
Yes, actually. First of all, because of the tariff rate cut,
Mm-hmm.
and then second, because we are now seeing, well, actually, El Nino is supposed to be over,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
so we will have more favorable
Mm-hmm.
conditions. But of course, we have to guard against the La Nina, and so
Yeah.
it's still an iffy situation, and that's the reason why we really need to be very strategic about this, and at the very least, make sure that we will have reliable supply
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of rice, because rice is a staple of Filipinos.
Right.
And actually, with respect to the CTP, the tariff reduction covered two major final products, food products. So that would be rice, and then dairy,
Mm-hmm.
the milk. So it's really to ensure, help ensure food security. Now, corn was also maintained at a low tariff, because corn actually, some of our kababayans actually use corn also as part of their staple,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot more use corn
Mm-hmm.
as an input to animal feeds, and so
Right.
it's really important that we also keep it affordable, and
Mm-hmm.
also
Yeah.
the supply reliable, at the same time that we are trying to boost production of our domestic corn.
I see. I would like to clarify, Undersecretary. Is the imported rice included only? I'm sorry. Is the imported rice will be reduced its tariff rate, or are there any other agricultural products involved?
Yes, actually, let's say dairy products.
Mm.
So the dairy
Okay.
products was kept at 0 to 1%. So this is for milk products, and then as I mentioned earlier, some of the processed the meat that is being used for processing
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
is also kept at a low tariff. Tariff on corn was maintained at
Maintain. Mm-hmm.
5% as well
Yeah. Mm-mm.
for the in quota.
Input.
Yeah. So again, like I said, there's really that conscious
Mm-hmm.
effort to make sure that for that we have we help ensure food security, but at the same time we also want to make sure that the needs of our food producers will also be met. Oh, by the way, there's also the
Mm-hmm.
tariffs on the wheat, rye, and
Mm.
other flour. So it was maintained at
Maintained.
5%, and
All
then
right.
other baking ingredients, it was also brought down to
Mm.
seven between 3 and 7%.
I see. Okay. Other agricultural products besides
Mm-hmm.
rice is just maintained. Okay. All right. Moving on to another issue, Undersecretary. As we know, our Rice Competitive Enhancement Fund, which is the component of the rice tariffication law, was put up to improve Palay farmers' competitiveness and income via assistance, trainings, among others, by imposing significant tariff rate on imported rice. And on the other hand, farmers group are expressing concern as they may get left behind as they would not be able to keep up with the competition by this tariff rate cut on imported rice. So how does NEDA see this observation?
Yeah, actually, we need to recall what was the previous regime before we had the rice tariffication law. Before, it was still a period of high prices of rice,
Mm-hmm.
but we were not actually getting any revenues or any tariffs from the imported rice. We were still importing rice. Actually, we have been importing rice for a very very long time now. uh, what the RTL did was to tarify that imports and
Mm-hmm.
make it transparent that however much you import, for as long as you pay
Mm-hmm.
the tariff, okay. But the thing is, this is market driven, and therefore the importers will actually, they have a pretty good idea as to just how much is the production shortfall, our domestic production
Mm-hmm.
shortfall, and they will actually not over import,
Mm.
because the thing is, our own rice actually has a quality premium.
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
it's actually better, more aromatic, better tasting.
Yeah.
There's really a quality premium to our domestic rice.
Mm-hmm.
Now what we did under the RTL was to, okay, let's collect the tariff from the imported rice, and then we funnel back that
Mm.
tariff collection to the agriculture sector, in particular to the rice farmers, so that we fund those programs that will make them more competitive.
Okay.
So what would this be? This would be your mechanization program. So
Mm-hmm.
this will be your credit support as well.
Mm-hmm.
This will be your subsidies on the fertilizers that are needed. And some of them also went to research and development, so that we can come up with more resilient
Mm-hmm.
varieties.
I see.
So the recent spike in the rice prices is really driven by the El Nino.
Yeah.
And so we
Mm-hmm.
think that after this El Nino is over, after we have this we are over this hump of extreme weather disturbances,
Mm-hmm.
then we do expect that once again we will have this favorable situation on rice.
Mm-hmm.
Now the reason why the tariff now is kept low is really about, it's really government pitching in very
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
very intentionally to reduce that consumer prices
Ah,
on
yeah.
rice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is actually what will happen, but there will still be tariff revenues, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore we will still be able to fund the programs. And another thing that we think will we hope will happen here is that with the reduction in inflation,
Mm-hmm.
then perhaps interest rates would also be reduced,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and this will actually encourage further investments. Encourage It will generate more employment
I
for
see.
our kababayans, and
Mm-hmm.
it will actually be growth enhancing as well.
I see. And there's a report this week that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will is likely to implement a rate cut or interest rate
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah, well, not to preempt
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the policy action of the Banco Central, but this is really one thing that we think will happen, that if they see that the inflation is actually kept low
Low. Mm-hmm.
and stable, then there's really room to cut
Mm-hmm.
those interest rates.
And that might influence the next inflation rate.
It's the other way around. It's really,
Mm.
we have to bring down the inflation rate so that they can bring down that interest rates, and that is the one that will actually encourage growth, promote further economic growth,
Yeah.
employment.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Mm,
All
mm.
right. For this one, Undersecretary, since this comprehensive tariff program, there will be an executive order that will be issued soon. So, we'd like to clarify. Are there any consultations with key agricultural stakeholders and government agencies regarding this?
Oh yes, as I mentioned earlier, the consultations actually began last year. Now, just to clarify as well, the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
consultations are really meant to inform policymakers, even those doing the analysis about the perceived impact of this move on the sector. And just to say as well that this tariff reduction is just one instrument. There are other instruments that really should be used in order to do that balancing act. So you cannot really hope to balance so many interests using
Mm.
just one instrument, which is the tariff reduction. And that's the reason why this will have to be complemented by agricultural support
Ah, yeah.
programs, by the
Mm-hmm.
RCEF,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the continued support of the government to
Yeah.
the agriculture sector.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all
Mm.
right. Okay. Last two questions, Undersecretary. So, how the government can still collect substantial import duties for rice competitiveness enhancement fund to support its role,
Mm.
despite the reduced tariff rate, which is pegged at 15%.
Yeah, and thank you for the question as well. Now, just to say that there are many fund sources, and tariff revenues is actually just one of these fund source. And increasingly, we have been less and less reliant on import tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really because we have trade agreements, but those trade agreements are really intended to make our domestic industries more competitive.
Yeah.
And therefore that means we are encouraging more investments, we are encouraging higher growth, and of course the employment, and that is actually how we will be generating more of these tax revenues, so
Mm-hmm.
not from the import duties, but from the overall economic activity in the country.
I see. Okay. Would that constitute an increase on duties? Since this is the plan will be the tariff rate will be reduced to 15%. So would that constitute an increase on duties?
uh, a decrease.
A
A
decrease?
decrease, you mean? Yeah.
An increase. Sorry.
I didn't get the question, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Since the uh, let's see, the tariff rate will be at 15%. So would that constitute an increase on duties?
No,
Since
it will. It's the other way around.
if
So
mhm.
Previously, it was levied at
35.
35% tariff
Okay.
rate, so it's now at 15.
15.
Yes,
Okay. Okay. It's a
it will now be at 15.
okay,
Yeah.
I see. Okay, gotcha. All right, and yeah, generally, are we seeing any impact on the economy regarding this tariff rate reduction?
Well, we have done we have done the the pencil pushing. We have done the initial estimates, but of course we have yet to wait until the executive order is
Mm,
issued. And but just to say that we do expect a lot of benefits from this comprehensive tariff program. On with respect to the tariff reduction in rice, then we should be seeing reduced
mm,
inflation rate first on rice, and then overall inflation. And
mm,
then with respect to the other commodities covered by the CTP, we're hoping to see greater expansion in economic activity
I
for
see.
those industries that use this as inputs to their production.
I see. Okay, and this comprehensive tariff program is just like a chain reaction that will be felt among consumers and local producers as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes. So
Mm.
it will actually, it will start that very what we call favorable chain reaction.
A favorable chain reaction. Okay, I
Yep.
see. Okay, with that, thank you, National Economic and Development Authority Undersecretary Rose Edilion, for joining us in the program, Front and Center.
Yes, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right.
Mabuhay.
All right. Thank you so much. And that was NEDA Undersecretary Rose Edilion. Front and Center returns after Pinoy Kultura.
Time to celebrate kulturang Pinoy. Tradisyon, musika, sining, literatura at iba pa. Anything and everything fun and Filipino. Ito ang Pinoy Kultura.
It's a leap of faith, actually more like a three-step and a sway. Ito ay ang sayaw sa Obando, Bulacan. Sinasalihan ng mga babae at lalaki na humihiling ng anak o asawa sa tatlong pintakasing santo. The Three Saints, San Pascual Bailon, Santa Clara ng Assisi, and Nuestra Señora de Salambao. Wikipedia says it's a dance of vitality and abundance performed for 3 days from May 17th to the 19th, one day devoted to each saint. The festival starts off with a mass, and later in the day, the dance procession is performed, where devotees sing the Santa Clara song and melody to the Blessed Virgin of Salambao, their Thanksgiving song. The festival could be traced to an ancient ritual called Kasilonawan, a celebration of the god Linga, a force of nature. When the Franciscan missionaries came, they introduced the three saints to replace the pagan gods. In WW2, the Church of Obando and much of the town was pretty much destroyed, including images of the three saints. The festival was banned because of its pagan roots. Religious processions were still held, but the dancing was not allowed. But in 1972, the new parish priest and the Cultural Commission of Obando brought the tradition back. Sayaw sa Obando has survived for centuries, holds up to this day. And yes, it was another victim of the COVID, put on hold just like other mass activities. But in May this year, thousands of devotees, mostly families and couples, came back to pray for children and perform the fertility dance in the streets of Obando. And just to be safe, with face masks on.
Yan ang Pinoy Kultura because our culture is cool.
Serving the Republic of the Philippines for more than 75 years. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center. Philippines commemorated its 126th Philippine Independence Day, which is observed every June 12. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. led the nationwide commemoration of the 126th anniversary of Philippine independence in a flag raising and wreath laying ceremony at the Rizal Park Monument in the city of Manila. This year's event embraces the Bagong Pilipinas, or in English, New Philippines, tradition of commemorating the country's freedom. In line with the celebration, President Marcos Jr. also capped off the nationwide commemoration in the Parada ng Kalayaan or Freedom Parade 2024, highlighting the parade of 22 beautifully decorated floats from various provinces and national government agencies that showcase the rich history of the Philippines, particularly the story of 11 events depicting the country's nationwide struggle for freedom from colonial rule. Also, the chief executive hosted the Vendonneur reception, bringing together key government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, and other distinguished guests to mark the anniversary of Philippine independence and nationhood. The said toast signifies unity, respect, and cooperation among nations, reflecting the importance of diplomacy and international relations in upholding peace and prosperity.
Despite the world brought about by global inflation, our country still managed to curb inflation to reasonable, almost sustainable. It remains, unfortunately, our greatest problem. And this is inflation that is brought about by forces that we cannot control. But nonetheless, I think that we have done a good job. And with this, it is a very large improvement from what we were under, the situation that we were under maybe a year ago.
And in the said ceremony, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. revealed that the government did a good job in managing the economy, particularly in handling inflation and promoting the country as investments destination.
Despite the woes brought about by global inflation, our country still managed to curb inflation to reasonable, almost sustainable. It remains, unfortunately, our greatest problem. And this is inflation that is brought about by forces that we cannot control. But nonetheless, I think that we have done a good job. And with this, it is a very large improvement from what we were under, the situation that we were under maybe a year ago.
President Marcos vowed to continue working on the country's growth as he expressed optimism over the positive forecast for the Philippine economy.
We now continue to work on our growth, and we have now recently been giving our forecast to have the highest, one of the highest growth rates next year. And I think that this is totally well for the transformation of our economy, especially as we are trying to recover from the effects of our very bad drought and trying to prepare for what is coming over the rainy season.
Meanwhile, President Marcos said this famous line of him to express the Filipinos' love for freedom in the toast with the diplomatic corps.
On many occasions, their triumphs have all the more strengthened our resolve and unified our people. It is the highest of Filipinos in the year.
Marcos said the struggle for Philippine independence continues to reverberate to this day, not against colonial oppression, but against modern-day challenges.
The inspiration and the balance, resilience, and untiring spirit of our forefathers as we tackle the new challenges confronting our country.
And the president also pointed out the country's adherence to an independent foreign policy, seeking to strengthen existing alliances and build new partnerships with like-minded states.
Our foreign policy is grounded in the continuing promotion and work for peace, and the continuing promotion and work for our national interests. On the global stage, we have taken decisions to support the rule of law and the rules-based international order, grounded on the principles laid out in the UN Charter and multilateral conventions.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on the Vendonneur hosted by the President of the Philippines at the Malacanang Palace, traditionally held on New Year's Day and on Independence Day. And that concludes this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our producer Aaron Erwin Peñano, and technical personnel Milo Janela. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Join us again here on Front and Center. Mabuhay and love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.